Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. Welcome back to the channel here on YouTube.com. This is the Lightning Flash update for May 16th, 2020. We got another stacked edition of the LFU. This could very well go over 2 hours. We are just a week away from Double or Nothing 2, which is looking extremely stacked. Actually more stacked than last year's Double or Nothing. So I cannot wait to get to next Saturday. I can't wait to watch that. We actually got a lot of things to talk about. A very loaded week of news as far as pro wrestling goes, both on the weekly shows and off of the weekly shows. We got some interesting stories concerning a legend no longer under contract, Jinder Mahal receiving a babyface push, Gallows and Anderson potentially signing with Impact Wrestling. Why I don't think that's going to happen, so stick around till the end after we get through the weekly show reviews. 205 Live actually returned to in-ring action this week on the WWE Network. We had a couple matches there. We had a couple of matches concerning Tyler Breeze. Jack Gallagher was in action against Tony Nese. So we'll talk about that when we get to the end of the weekly show reviews. NXT UK is still not doing any operations because the UK is currently on lockdown. Finally put the AC up here. Finally put the AC in up here. It is hot as hell. Mayweather's starting to kick in. I'm actually happy about that because I'm fucking sick of the cold. But regardless of that, we got a loaded show. We got a lot of shit to talk about. We're going to start with the weekly show reviews. We're going to start with Monday Night Raw in just a minute. But first things first, I got a few things to tell you people. First things first, please follow me on Twitter at HistoryMakerDJS. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at TheDJStorms. The Thunderscope live stream, I Love It Loud, from last Saturday. It's almost a week, and we have almost 500 views, more than double the views from the last Thunderscope that we did, which was Crazy Train. So I don't know what happened there, but man, you guys have been awesome. Thunder really appreciates the feedback. Almost 1,000 views in just a week. That's great. Hopefully we'll be able to get another Thunderscope up for you guys. Potentially next Friday. We'll think about it. I'm actually getting my infusion next Friday to try and keep this intestinal disease intact. I've been feeling a little bit better. Again, the progression is slow, but I'm slowly starting to feel better. I haven't felt as gassy as I normally do. Obviously, the abdominal pain does cause a bit of gassiness, but, you know, then again, that's what happens with an intestinal disease. Can't really do too much there. But regardless, I appreciate your patience, and I've been doing my best to keep up to date with everything in the wrestling world. Add me on Facebook as well. All the social media links are in the description. For collaborations and business inquiries, please send me an email at StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. And then, of course, like the official DJ Storms business page, and I will send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook, that is. The Rewind for Money in the Bank 2020, link is in the description, as well as Quarantine with Thunder episode number 7. Thunder wants to help me build some muscle mass. I mean, I think it's working. I think it's working. If you want to go check that out, link's also in the description, as well as my Dark Side of the Ring review for the last ride of the Road Warriors. Next Tuesday, we got Owen Hart. I cannot wait to watch that one. And then after that, that's going to be it for Season 2. So Dark Side of the Ring reviews will unfortunately cease to exist, at least until next year when we get Season 3, which I really hope they do a Season 3, because Dark Side of the Ring this year, man, they knocked it out of the park this year with almost every single episode. I've been loving it. But all those video links are in the description. Please hit that thumbs up. Try and get this video to 25 thumbs up. The views and the likes have been very consistent. I can't thank you guys enough for keeping up to date with all the views and likes. I greatly appreciate it. We're actually less than 50 subs away from 2K, so I could be DJ 2K before I know it and before you know it. So here's what I want you guys to do. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on this week's weekly shows? And, of course, the news, rumors going on in the wrestling world. And, of course, hit the subscribe button. DJ 2K is about to become a reality, whether you fucking like it or not. How do you like me now, motherfuckers? And, of course, hit the notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way, you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it is the best time to be on YouTube. It's the only time where you can see this glorious sideburn chin strap combination. And this freshly grown quarantine stash. I fucking see you, ladies. And last but not least, Blue Riot Podcast. If you guys are not familiar with Blue Riot Podcast, we are the fastest rising podcast in the pro wrestling community today. Of course, shout out to my friend, The Blue Riot. If you want to go follow The Blue Riot on Twitter, it is at Blue Riot with 2 T's. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Blue Riot Pod. Him and me, we've been doing the Blue Riot Storms review every single Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, where we review AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite. We also have another special bonus episode coming to you with my man Joseph Conlon of Big Fight Feel. Shout out to him as well. We are planning on doing a prediction episode, predicting the next 5 champions throughout each division in AEW. The next 5 AEW World Champions, next 5 AEW TNT Champions, Tag Team Champions, and possible Women's Champions as well. So that episode we are going to record hopefully on Tuesday, and we are going to upload it maybe on Wednesday, but of course, the flagship show for the Blue Riot Podcast is, of course, Blue Riot Storms Review AEW Darkamite, where me and my man, the Blue Riot, we review AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite. The most recent episode, episode 6, is actually up on the podcast page on all platforms where you find your local podcasts, whether that be Anchor, whether that be Podbean, whether that be iTunes, whether that be Spotify. The iTunes link is in the description, so if you have iTunes, please go check it out, and you'll be able to listen to our review on AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite. We're already half a dozen episodes in. We've been having a blast doing it. Next week is episode 7. That's going to be uploaded on all podcast platforms on Thursday, of course, at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, or 12 p.m. Eastern Time, not 12:30. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time is my Dark Side of the Ring review for the last days of Owen Hart. Next Wednesday is Quarantine with Thunder, episode number 8. Thunder's got to get some lawn work done. And then, of course, next Friday is the rundown for AEW Double or Nothing 2. That's going to go up and premiere live at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Next Saturday, of course, is the flagship show for the DJ Storms brand, the Lightning Flash update. And then on Sunday is going to be the rewind for AEW Double or Nothing 2. So next week, I got 5 videos and 2 podcasts to do. So it's a loaded week of recording starting on Tuesday of next week for me. But I want to thank you guys so much for keeping up to date with everything as far as the DJ Storms brand goes. I greatly appreciate you. I can't thank you guys enough. It really does mean the world to me. I know I can be a prick. I can be a narcissistic prick, but deep down, I got a heart. I got a heart, and I greatly appreciate every single one of you who've been supporting me, who've been liking my videos, been commenting on my videos, even the assholes who are disliking. I know you can't help but hang on every single word that I say. I know you're swinging from my pubic hair. Oh, I know. But anyway. Enough of the self-brand promotion and the advertisement. Let's get straight into the weekly show reviews. Monday Night Raw this week. It is the Monday Night Raw after a pay-per-view. Becky Lynch announces that she was pregnant, and they still couldn't peak a viewership over 2.0 million. Still couldn't peak the viewership. Minimal highlights on this show. I don't really know what else I could say. It's literally the same shit over and over again as far as Monday Night Raw goes. Becky Lynch, she kicked off the show. She brought the briefcase out, the Money in the Bank briefcase that Asuka won, put it out on the table. She talks about walking into the PC and how everyone actually cared for her. She thought that no one would. She said that it was the fans that made her who she is, and unfortunately she has to go away for a little while. Asuka came out all angry. Becky said that the match last night was not for the women's Money in the Bank contract. It was actually for the Raw Women's Championship. Asuka's the Raw Women's Champion. She starts dancing around like an idiot, going up on the table. Becky announces that she is going to go and be a mother. They embrace, and that was it. Number one. Congratulations to Becky Lynch. Number two, could you have forced the pregnancy announcement of Becky Lynch down our throats any more than you have this week? I swear, that's all I've been hearing this week. 3, why didn't Shayna Baszler become the Raw Women's Champion at WrestleMania? And don't try and misconstrue my words here. Don't try and misconstrue my words. I'm not saying, why are you saying that, Becky should have lost because she was pregnant? Oh, Becky didn't know that she was pregnant at the time. I never said that Becky knew that she was pregnant. My point is, whether she was pregnant or not, whether she knew she was pregnant or not, Shayna Baszler should be the Raw Women's Champion. What happened here is only further validating the point that Shayna Baszler should have won the Raw Women's Championship. Now how does she look? Because Asuka won the briefcase, and Asuka's now the champion, which I will say again, this only further validates my point from what I said on the Rewind, that Asuka is merely a champion. Asuka is merely the Raw Women's Champion because Kairi Sane is on her way out of the company, and WWE wants to give Kairi Sane 2 big birdies. So they're giving the world to her partner, Asuka. And please don't give me the bullshit. Kairi Sane was featured in a backstage celebration segment with her partner, Asuka. Yeah, no shits she was. You know why? Because A, her contract isn't up. She's still under contract. And 2, I don't know if you're aware, but there is currently a worldwide global pandemic going on that is restricting travel issues across the globe. So even if her contract was up, and even if she could leave the company, she couldn't leave the United States of America because there are travel restrictions across the globe. So unless you can find a method of transportation for Little Miss Kairi Sane from here to Japan during this type of time, please let me know and I will DM her on Twitter as soon as possible. You really think that WWE actually gives a shit about Asuka? You really think that Vince McMahon cares and Vince McMahon is invested in Asuka after the 2+ years of shit booking that she went through ever since she got up to the main roster, losing to Charlotte, the matches with Carmella and James Ellsworth. We had her losing to the Iconics alongside Naomi at Super Showdown back in October. And then she ended up winning the SmackDown Live Women's Championship. She was taken off of television, had a shitty match with Mandy Rose, lost the title to Charlotte just 2 weeks before WrestleMania, placed in a tag team with Kairi Sane. They laid down for Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross more times than I can count. Please. Asuka is merely the Raw Women's Champion because Kairi Sane is leaving after her contract is up, and they want to rub it in Kairi Sane's face. So of course Kairi Sane is still going to be featured on television. Of course she's still going to be utilized. What else are they going to do? She's not going to amount to anything, but of course they're going to show her in a little backstage segment. They probably just wanted to rub it in. Oh yeah, this is what would have happened if you would have stayed, Kairi. Meanwhile, if Kairi would have stayed, Asuka and Kairi Sane would still be in the same position that they were in before Kairi Sane decided to sail away after her contract is up. And on top of that, this was a horrible decision in more ways than one to just give Asuka the Raw Women's Championship. Whether the match was for the Raw Women's Championship or not, you're essentially eliminating the element of surprise and a potential 6 to 12 month long storyline that you could have built up with the women's Money in the Bank briefcase. The women's division on the main roster is in desperate need of some excitement. It's in desperate need of some interest. And the Money in the Bank briefcase, they had that. And they sacrificed it just to give Asuka the Raw Women's Championship and make the match itself for the Raw Women's Championship. Meanwhile, you could have done a tournament. Look at the women that you have on Monday Night Raw for a tournament. You got Shayna Baszler. You got Kairi Sane. You got Nia Jax. Even though she's terrible, she's still a woman that you could have used. You could have had her eliminated in the first round. You got Natalya. You got Ruby Riott. You got Liv Morgan. You got Bianca Belair, who hasn't been featured in a match on television in a month. I don't even know why you decided to call up Bianca Belair. And then you could have brought up someone from NXT. Could have brought up a Casey Catanzaro. See what she could have done against someone like a Liv Morgan or a Natalya or Ruby Riott. You could have had an 8-woman tournament, and it could have culminated with the finals at Backlash. Possibly Bianca Belair versus Shayna Baszler. And then you could have had the Intercontinental Championship tournament also culminate at Backlash. You would have kept the surprise of the Money in the Bank briefcase, the element of surprise, and a potential storyline with Asuka intact, and you could have crowned a new champion. And on top of that, this would have actually gotten a much better spotlight on Backlash. It would actually have generated a sense of intrigue for Backlash, because realistically speaking, who the fuck cares about Backlash? On June 14th, who's going to tune into Backlash? What reason does WWE have for us to watch Backlash right now? You take a look at some of these other pay-per-views going on. You know, you got TLC. They have the TLC matches. They have that sense of intrigue. Hell in a Cell has a Hell in a Cell match. Elimination Chamber match. Money in the Bank ladder match. Royal Rumble, the Royal Rumble match. WrestleMania, it's the biggest wrestling show of the year for the WWE. What sense of interest and what reason do we have to watch Backlash? At least you would have put a sense of importance on Backlash by having 2 championship tournament finals. But no. No, they gave Asuka the Raw Women's Championship and sacrificed the Money in the Bank briefcase. No tournament. No tournament. No effort. They just make the match for the Raw Women's Championship and they get a title to Asuka. I mean, put it this way, this is definitely going to benefit Becky, don't get me wrong, because Becky Lynch has been one of the worst things about WWE television, not even her fault. That's WWE Creative's fault, because they did not put any effort into Becky Lynch after WrestleMania, and she has had one of the worst women's championship reigns of the modern era. Again, not her fault, but it's definitely going to help her in the long run when she eventually comes back, and I can only hope that a heel turn is going to be the number one priority for Becky Lynch, because she was stale as fuck. Good wrestler, but her character fucking sucks. She sucks. And unless you're one of these fucking idiotic stans, you know for a fact that Becky Lynch has reached her peak and she dropped to the lowest of lows since the start of 2020. Bobby Lashley versus Humberto Carrillo, no disqualification match. I barely paid attention to this. We had Bobby Lashley bringing in a chair. Carrillo with a drop kick to the chair, sending it into Lashley's face. We had a springboard enziguri to Lashley. Lashley sent Carrillo into the LED post. Carrillo then came back, used the steel chair, bashing it over Lashley's back. Lashley then caught Carrillo in a full Nelson, and Carrillo tapped out. Now, originally I was thinking that they were probably leading towards Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, which even if they are, it's too little too late for that. But we did have a segment with Bobby Lashley and MVP later on in the show, which I will get to, and I'm actually going to tell you that I actually heard some ramblings about where Bobby Lashley may go for Backlash, so I'm gonna wait to talk about that. But Bobby Lashley gets the win here. Nothing special whatsoever. We had the Street Profits in a promo challenging the Viking Raiders to a game of basketball. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Street Profits challenging the Viking Raiders. Yes, the same Viking Raiders that put on a classic, the best tag team match of 2019 with Ricochet and Aleister Black at NXT TakeOver New York of last year. Those Viking Raiders. You have the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits playing basketball, and yet they wonder why the ratings currently stand at 1.8 million. Basketball on a fucking wrestling show. I'm telling you right now, I am so... God bless the Revolt. God bless the fucking Revolt for leaving. We had some dissension within Zelina Vega's stable, so they're already starting to break them up before they even got started, so why even put them together to begin with? We had a match between Tozawa and Angel Garza. The match actually started during the commercial break. We had the wing clipper for the win by Garza, looking at Theory, saying he could do this all day, all week, and all year. So McIntyre then came out. Theory got pushed into a Claymore. Drew McIntyre then Claymored Garza, stood down Andrade, and we go to commercial, and we get an impromptu match between Andrade and Drew. I don't understand what the point of this stable was if you're just going to have him get Claymored by McIntyre. And I've said this before. You don't build someone else up by tearing someone else down. You don't give and take away. You don't take one to give one. There are ways to go about it, especially Andrade. Especially guys like Andrade and Garza and Theory. Now, this is a hard-hitting match. Don't get me wrong. It only went about 9 minutes, but it was very hard-hitting for what it was, I will say. Drew with a tilt-a-whirl slam on the apron. We had Andrade targeting the left arm. Drew with a belly-to-belly barrage, big spine buster for a 2. We had double knees in the corner for a 1 count on Drew. Andrade with the back elbow. Drew with the Glasgow kiss. Reverse Alabama slam and a Claymore for the win. Hard-hitting match, don't get me wrong. It was actually very, very good for the short amount of time that it was, but why are you using Andrade and why are you sacrificing Andrade when he could be just as good as Drew McIntyre is right now, if not better than Drew McIntyre is right now? You know, you don't sacrifice someone who could be on that level, if not above the level that a certain superstar is on, just to build up that certain superstar up. Drew McIntyre is great and all, but you don't have to use a star like Andrade, who realistically should be a focal point on Monday Night Raw, because he's the United States champion. You don't use someone like that to build up Drew McIntyre because you're taking away from Andrade. You are delegitimizing Andrade, and I said it last week. At this rate, Zelina Vega's stable, no matter how you look at it, their legitimacy is at negative levels. Negative levels. There's nothing about them that screams legitimate. Nothing. So Drew McIntyre, he takes the mic, gives respect and props to Rollins, saying that he freaking brought it. He said the brand-to-brand invitational has been extended and a certain SmackDown superstar has chosen to face him, which, by the way, WWE didn't even say why this brand-to-brand invitational is even taking place, further proving that the only reason why it's taking place is simply because Vince McMahon thinks that it will draw ratings by having certain superstars from SmackDown appear on Raw and Raw appear on SmackDown, vice versa with NXT, blah, 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 blah. Brand-to-brand invitational, or as the majority of the wrestling community is calling it, Wild Card Rule 2.0. And if you wanna know how insane Vince McMahon really is, the Wild Card Rule was in full effect around this time last year, and around this time last year, both Raw and SmackDown at the time were under 2 million, and that was well before this entire pandemic even started. So if last year both shows were under 2 million, in the middle of the year, with no bullshit whatsoever, no coronavirus pandemic, crowds were in full effect. If the wild card rule back then was in full effect and the ratings were under 2 million, what do you think's going to happen now when this brand-to-brand invitational gets out of control? It's already out of control, and this brand-to-brand invitational should not even be a thing to begin with because they're too lazy to actually build up stars with the talent on their own shows. And on top of that, he extends the invitation next week to face King Corbin. Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin. Out of everyone on SmackDown, Jeff Hardy, Drew Gulak, Daniel Bryan, Nakamura, Cesaro, Bray Wyatt, out of everyone, you chose King Corbin. Out of everyone. It's like they contemplate, how can we get worse? It's like they're literally telling us, don't watch the show. Don't watch the wrestling show. Please don't. So next week we get Drew McIntyre versus King Corbin. King Corbin. So MVP was talking to Lashley, says that you're still trapped in the same mental place. And maybe he needs some guidance. So MVP and Bobby Lashley, they could be headed towards a partnership. They actually partnered up later on in the show to take out R-Truth, which I'll talk about. I heard a rumor, supposedly, that this partnership and all this momentum for Bobby Lashley could very well lead to a WWE Championship match between Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre at Backlash. Now, Bobby Lashley is, and always will be one of the biggest wastes of a signee in the WWE in the last few years. I don't even know why they brought him back. The guy hasn't amounted to anything in the last 2 years. He's not bad. He's not bad. He's just fucking boring. He's just fucking boring as shit. I'd literally rather watch a fruit fly give birth than watch Bobby Lashley wrestle. But I'd take Bobby Lashley over Jinder Mahal any day of the week. So if we're going to get Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre over Jinder Mahal versus Drew McIntyre at Backlash, I don't care. Fucking sign me up. I'll be the biggest Bobby Lashley advocate out there. I don't care. As long as we don't get Jinder Mahal. Moment of bliss. Moment of piss. Moment of wish. Wish I did not have to take notes, which I actually didn't really take. I didn't really take that much notes. I would be lying to you. I usually take like 10, 11, 12 lines worth of notes for every segment. I took about 3 lines worth of notes for this segment. I had my head buried in my phone for most of this segment. Moment of bliss with the women's tag team champs. They were wishing happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms. And then all of a sudden we hear iconic in the background. Someone hit the Iconics music and then the Iconics walk out. The Iconics, yes. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce of the Iconics. And I literally heard the sound of remote after remote after remote after remote clicking off the television. Either changing the channel or completely shutting off the TV at all, because the Iconics completely killed everyone's mood to even watch television. I barely even took any notes. The Iconics came out, they challenged Bliss and Cross, and they defeated Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. What a shocker! Champions lose in non-title match. No matter how worthless Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross are, no matter how worthless the women's tag team titles are, you have champions lose. And now we get a title match made for next week. The Iconics versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. The Iconics. And then, here's the funny part. They said that everyone was waiting for the Iconics' long-awaited return. Really now? Who, unless you're one of these accounts on Twitter that has Billie Kay and Peyton Royce as their Avi, or unless you're Sean Spears, because I know that Sean Spears is having a real fun time with Peyton Royce back at his place. Unless you're Sean Spears or one of these losers on social media with Iconics pictures as their Avies, who's been waiting for the Iconics' long-awaited return? I was waiting for the Iconics' long-awaited release. I was actually surprised that they weren't part of the group that went back in April. Iconics' long-awaited return. Yeah, like we really want to see the team that single-handedly killed the women's tag team championships before the women's tag team championships even had the opportunity to get started. Yeah, we really want to see the Iconics. I need the Iconics on TV just about as much as I need this intestinal disease. Matter of fact, I wish the Iconics would sail away back to Australia and never come back. Sonya Deville's promo on SmackDown, she was like going on and on about how Mandy Rose is only good at being blonde and pretty. Same could be said about the Iconics, except they're not blonde. Billie Kay actually has black hair, but regardless, all they're good for is being pretty. If you're Sean Spears, Peyton Royce is actually good at a lot of things. Wink, wink. R-Truth and Cedric Alexander and Ricochet versus MVP, Shane Thorne, and Brendan Vink. Did not take any notes other than the fact that R-Truth hit the lie detector. He was playing his fucking Pretty Ricky gimmick with the buck-tooth dentures. And R-Truth, Cedric Alexander, and Ricochet won. Bobby Lashley came out, spears R-Truth, and Bobby Lashley and MVP leave together after taking out Truth, and that was it. Shayna Baszler, she was interviewed about Becky Lynch's pregnancy, and she said that 10 out of 10 moms will convince you that pregnancy didn't ruin their careers. Can you imagine Becky, the man, barefoot in the kitchen eating bonbons? That kid's gonna suck. You know who the father is? I rest my case. This was golden. This was my personal favorite part of the entire show. Shayna Baszler, gold. Everything that Shayna Baszler does when it comes to her promo work, absolute gold. Gold. Only further validating my point that Shayna Baszler should have been the Raw Women's Champion at the end of WrestleMania Night 1. Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. I loved it. I was laughing my ass off. Awesome stuff. Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black versus Seth Rollins and Murphy. Rollins was in complete shambles. He looked like he just fell out of bed. His hair was all disheveled. His hair was frizzy and all over the place. He was walking as if he was in a fucking trance. Murphy was the only one that seemed a little bit normal. I mean, of course, like, Murphy, Rey Mysterio, and Black, they all seemed more normal. Murphy was walking how he normally walks. Murphy was fine. So Murphy and Black ended up starting off the match. They brawled for a little bit. Rey and Murphy, they got into it. Rey actually struck Rollins. Rollins actually didn't get involved at all until Rey Mysterio actually struck him. Rollins was completely motionless, just looking down at the ring ropes the entire time. He didn't even attempt to make a tag to Murphy. So then Rollins got involved, and the ref actually called for the bell, and I'm like, why the fuck are they calling for a DQ? Makes absolutely no sense right there. But I did read that Brian Alvarez actually said that Vince is actually enforcing a rule where though the competitors have within a 5 count when they tag in, if they're on the outside, they can't touch the individuals in the ring when they're on the apron. They can strike them with a fist, but they can't grab them and then pull them out. I don't know. Some type of rule I've never heard of. WWE making up the rules as they go along. But Rollins, he attacked Rey Mysterio. The ref called for the bell, poked Rey Mysterio in the right eye. And this is actually where shit started to get good. Rollins was saying, stay back. Stay the hell back. So Rollins then took Rey Mysterio and he starts squeezing his head as if he's in a fucking vice grip. Like a vice grip. Like you remember the Great Khali? Great Khali sucks, but you remember the Great Khali and how he used to do the vice-like grip where he used to squeeze someone's head? So Rollins was squeezing Mysterio's head as if he was the Great Khali, and he starts squeezing Rey Mysterio's head and he starts pushing Rey Mysterio's right eye into the point of the steel steps, and he's got this fucking crazy look as if he's a banshee. He's got this fucking crazy banshee look on his face, and he legitimately looked like he was a fucking psychopath. I thought this was awesome. I thought the descent into insanity from Seth Rollins was perhaps the best part about Monday Night Raw. And then afterwards, Rey was actually being examined, and Rollins was like, Rey, I don't know what happened. So then Black went to attack Seth Rollins. Murphy stopped him, and they got into a brawl. So I'm assuming that we could possibly get Murphy and Black next week. If we get Black versus Rollins at Backlash, now that I certainly would not mind. It would actually create some intrigue for Backlash. I would actually love to see Black versus Rollins at Backlash. And if that's the case, Black beats Rollins. That should only further validate that Black should be challenging and he should be winning the WWE Championship from Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam no matter what. Viking Raiders versus Street Profits in a game of basketball. This is one of those moments where you're literally embarrassed to be a wrestler. This was fucking embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Profits won 74-2, and then afterwards, the Viking Raiders then lied and said, oh yeah, we let you win. And they showed that they could actually ball. At this rate, I don't even want to fucking see a Raw Tag Team title match between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. I don't even want to see it. At this rate, I don't even want to see it, whether it's on Raw, whether it's on SmackDown, whether it's on Backlash. I don't even want to see it. I don't even want to see it. They have ruined everything about both the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. The carpool karaoke was enough. This was the final nail in the coffin for the Viking Raiders. We had Shayna Baszler versus Natalya. I didn't even take notes on this match. I wasn't really taking much notes on anything for Monday Night Raw. I actually took more notes for SmackDown than I did for Raw. I'm actually probably going to do more ranting for Raw than I'm going to do for SmackDown. But Baszler beat Natalya with a big knee. It seems as though they're building up Baszler to challenge Asuka at Backlash, and if they do, that right there is a big no-no. So either Asuka is going to be a transitional champion, or Shayna Baszler is going to be further ruined. Either way, this is a big no-no, and this is ultimately going to result in a loss for either Asuka or Shayna Baszler. And if it results in a DQ, it's really not going to benefit either woman. Edge and Orton. Which, by the way, I don't even know why they're still feuding. Can I just say that? I don't know why they're advertising Edge and Orton. Edge won. He won at WrestleMania. What's the point? So Edge came out. He says him and his family are ready to move on. Orton then came out and he said, congratulations, the better man won. And as Orton was walking up the ramp, Orton then walked back. He said he couldn't do it. He couldn't be the better man, and he couldn't lie to himself. He said the better man won at WrestleMania, but the better wrestler didn't. He said to Edge that all of his grit and passion doesn't compare to his naturally gifted ability. He says if you got the guts, then it'll be Edge and Orton at Backlash in a straight-up wrestling match. Edge then ponders as Raw goes off the air, and Charlie Caruso, you know that this was a Vince McMahon line right here, says that if this happens, this could be the greatest wrestling match ever. Could you be any more cringy? Again, I will ask, why are they still feuding? Why? Edge won. Edge won at WrestleMania. They built this up over the course of 2+ months. Edge won at WrestleMania. The match sucked, but Edge won. Edge won straight up. Last man standing match. That was it. There's no reason for them to be still feuding. Edge realistically should be the #1 contender for the WWE Championship. He's not going to win the WWE Championship. He's not going to get another championship reign. But I don't know about you. Edge versus McIntyre sounds like a damn good fucking match to me. And again, beating Orton. Why wouldn't you get a WWE Championship match if you beat someone like Randy Orton? Why isn't Edge facing off against Drew McIntyre? Why are we sitting here and why are we possibly looking at another Edge versus Orton match? It's like WWE could not just sit around and accept defeat. Now they're like, oh hey, we're going to do another match and hopefully erase the memory of that shitty WrestleMania match at on WrestleMania Night 2. The match sucked at WrestleMania. I don't care who you are or what you think. The match sucked. It sucked. But outside of Shayna Baszler and outside of Seth Rollins going apeshit, there was nothing on the show that was even worth investing your time in. AEW Dark. This was actually a lot better than the previous weeks. They're actually starting to put a lot more effort into AEW Dark. They're actually stacking AEW Dark. This week was stacked. Next week's is actually stacked. We had Shawn Dean versus Colt Cabana to start off the show. There was actually 9 matches on the show. This really wasn't anything special. This was pretty much a match just to get Colt Cabana a win because Colt Cabana is a part of the casino ladder match to determine a #1 contender for the AEW World Championship. Colt with the elbows, the flying apple, and the Superman for the win, and that was pretty much it. We had Mike Reed and Ryan Rembrandt versus Jurassic Express. We had Jungle Boy with 3 topes taking out both Reed and Rembrandt. Reed and Rembrandt, they isolated Jungle Boy for the most part until Luchasaurus came in. He got the tag, some big kicks, chokeslam, moonsault combination for a 2. We had a super kick to Ryan Rembrandt. And then Mike Reed was on the receiving end of a modified cutter. It was a tombstone position by Luchasaurus, and then Luchasaurus tossed him into a cutter on Jungle Boy, and the Jurassic Express get the win ahead of their tag team match on Dynamite against the Best Friends. Great to see Jurassic Express back. Really nothing special. Very academic match. You could have skipped over it. And all I can say is I definitely hope that they gain their momentum back. The pandemic has definitely halted a lot of momentum for a lot of wrestlers in All Elite Wrestling, especially Jurassic Express, but I can definitely see the Jurassic Express becoming the AEW World Tag Team Champions, hopefully either by the end of the year or by the winter of 2021. We could very well see Jurassic Express as the Tag Team Champions, possibly by Revolution next February. Lee Johnson and Musa versus Private Party. I got to give some credit to Lee Johnson and Musa. They've been a tag team for a while. They're actually very, very, very good together. I know that they're just merely being used as enhancement talents, but if you've been watching them, they're actually very fluid as a unit. Private Party will be the most fluid tag team in All Elite Wrestling, period. I don't think anyone's ever going to compare to Private Party when it comes to tag team fluidity. So we had Lee Johnson with a big tope on Mark Quinn. Big rolling dropkick by Musa. Senton by Cassidy. Big jumping senton by Cassidy on Johnson. Cassidy and Quinn actually hit a huge barrage. We got a big splash over the top onto the ramp by Quinn on Lee Johnson. Big flatliner, a slingshot flatliner by Cassidy, and a shooting star press by Mark Quinn for the win. Private Party, so fun to watch. I love watching Private Party. I cannot wait until the day that Private Party become the World Tag Team Champions and they have this huge babyface storyline going on. Again, Private Party is another one. Their momentum was really halted. But Private Party, great to see Private Party back. So fun to watch. I can't wait to see what they do with Private Party. John Cruz versus 10, a.k.a. Preston Vance. Preston Vance, he was just pretty much feasting on Cruz. This was very, very academic here. 10 with the spine buster for the win. I really don't see Preston Vance factoring into anything. I mean, he's intense, he's big, he's powerful, he's hard-hitting, but at the end of the day, to me, it just seems like they're just having him portray the muscle of the Dark Order for the time being, because there's just so many people who are ahead of Preston Vance as far as a singles competitor goes. He has the intensity. As I've said, he has the intensity. He's got the look. He can wrestle, but at the end of the day, you know, what other value does he have? There's way too many people who are ahead of him. Alan Angels versus Ray Phoenix. This was actually my favorite match, personally, of the entire show for AEW Dark. This was a damn good fucking match. This was a damn good match. We had Alan Angels and Ray Phoenix, fast-paced back and forth by both men. This only went 6 minutes, but man, was it good. Alan Angels with a kip-up, and Ray Phoenix absolutely took his head off with a super kick. Alan Angels, I'm surprised, continued after this. Angels with the powerbomb for a big 2 count. We had Alan Angels with a clothesline, and this actually was a clothesline on the apron, so Ray Phoenix landed hard on the apron. Diving foot stomp and a moonsault by Alan Angels for a 2. And you can really tell that they have a lot of investment in Alan Angels if they're giving him all this offense against a guy like Ray Phoenix. So Phoenix with a big springboard spin kick. I am not sure how he does that springboard spin kick without taking someone's head clean off their shoulders. You could not pay me all the money in the world to take a springboard spin kick in the corner by Ray Phoenix, no matter how many times he's done it, no matter if he's a trained professional. I would not take that even if my life depended on it. I could not. And then we had the modified Muscle Buster driver for the win. Damn good match here, even though it only went 6 minutes. Alan Angels is great. Ray Phoenix, he's in the ladder match. I can't wait to see what he does in the ladder match. Great stuff here from both men. We had Danny Jordan versus Chris Statlander. Nothing special right here. Glad to see Chris Statlander back. Chris Statlander with the Big Bang Theory for the win. And Chris Statlander, hopefully, by the end of the year, we could be looking at Chris Statlander as the AEW Women's World Champion. She's another one that her momentum was pretty much halted after Revolution, after she got that title match against Nyla Rose. Nothing really too special. Nothing really too crazy. I'm just glad to see Chris Statlander back. We had Jason Cade versus Orange Cassidy. Again, this really wasn't too special. A lot of academic matches on the show, but they did give a lot of individuals a win that needed wins. That's pretty much been the motive of Dark for the last 2 months. We had Orange Cassidy coming in with a big drop kick and a kip up with his hands in his pockets. Cade with the drop kick and a big knee. Cassidy actually went for a sliding headlock, but he stopped. And he just did the thumbs up, and Jason Cade put it into a thumbs down, which pissed off Orange Cassidy, actually. He actually got angry. Didn't really result in a big comeback, but it did result in a crucifix pin for the win. Orange Cassidy gets the win. He's actually a part of the ladder match, and I actually can't wait to see what he does there. Skylar Moore versus Britt Baker. Another academic match here. Nothing too special. Britt Baker, she has gotten better in the ring, though. I will say, Britt Baker's definitely improved, and she definitely showed that in the Fatal 4-Way on Dynamite, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Baker with a side kick and a step suplex, big drop kick and fisherman neck breaker, lockjaw for the win. And I actually like that she's using a glove. She's actually using the glove. And even though it's because of just the pandemic, I actually would like for her to continue using the glove going forward when she does the lockjaw. I actually think that's a nice touch to her character, but that's just my personal opinion right there. Luther versus Jimmy Havoc. No DQ match. This was decent. I expected a little bit more. This was decent. This has actually been building for a couple of months. The only thing I didn't like is the fact that Sabian and Penelope Ford, it was a no DQ match, but yet they weren't getting involved from the opening bell. That was just an insult to my intelligence right there. It didn't really make any sense, so I have to call them out on that. I don't know why Ford and Sabian didn't just help Jimmy Havoc right from the beginning. I still don't understand the partnership between Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian, just because they're British. But Havoc went right after Luther. Havoc was aided by Sabian with a chair. Havoc ended up using the chair on Luther. Luther threw the chair at Havoc. Luther with a cannonball to the floor, taking out both Sabian and Havoc. Big boot by Luther. Luther with a hip toss to Havoc on an open chair, and this was the cringe moment of the week. Havoc got hip tossed on the steel chair. You remember how Adam Cole and Aleister Black had a spot in their Extreme Rules match where Adam Cole set up the chairs back to back, and then Aleister Black delivered an attitude adjustment to Adam Cole on the top of the steel chairs, on the TP of steel chairs. This was the same thing here, except it was a hip toss, and Jimmy Havoc's back arched, and it got caught right on the open end of the chair, right on the back of the chair, and it looked nasty. It looked fucking... You could not pay me all the money in the world to take a spot like that. I'm surprised Jimmy Havoc's spine wasn't fucking severed at that point. So then Havoc was body slammed on the chairs for a 2. Kip Sabian was able to stop Luther on the middle rope. We had a big Hurricane Rana by Havoc, sending Luther over the chairs, actually. And then Havoc actually took a chair, put it on Luther, and delivered a double stomp onto the chair, onto Luther for a 2. We had a big butterfly suplex to Havoc on the ramp. Ford actually threw water at Luther when he had him in the crossface. And then we had Kip Sabian throwing a chair at Luther, and then Jimmy Havoc hit the Fisherman DDT for the win. Decent no DQ match. Capped off a fun hour and 15 minutes of AEW Dark. A lot of academic matches, but a lot of people are back in action, like Private Party and Jurassic Express. Couldn't wait to see those two teams back in action. Allen Angels and Phoenix was damn good. No DQ match was decent. I'm glad that they're actually putting a little bit more effort into Dark. However, I do think 9 matches is overkill, and I would actually prefer the standard 4 matches within an hour, and we could very well get that back once we get the crowds back when it comes to All Elite Wrestling Dark. And that's water bottle number 1 finished. I got a second one, don't worry. AEW Dynamite. Jake Roberts and Lance Archer started off the show. They actually started off the show with Lance Archer just completely clotheslining Lee Johnson, I believe it was. It was either Lee Johnson or Shawn Dean. So he says that he was asked to come out and apologize to Brandy. He says that as soon as Brandy kisses his ass, he'll apologize. That was an LOL moment right there. He bragged about Lance Archer, said that the time is about up, Cody. So then all of a sudden, you start hearing a car engine rumbling. Cody was driving his Ford, and he was driving it right through the gates of Daly's place. And him and Archer actually got into a brawl, and Archer was going for the blackout. And you heard Jake Roberts trash talking the entire time. Lance Archer went for the EBD claw. Cody ended up standing tall, and Roberts held Lance Archer back. This was an excellent promo, excellent build leading up to the TNT Championship match. This has actually been the best built match going into Double or Nothing. I don't think any match has had a better build than Lance Archer versus Cody. This was great. This was some great stuff. Jake Roberts and Lance Archer, I'm telling you right now, this reminds me of a young Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. You have an experienced mind in a guy like Jake Roberts. You have a beast. You have a monster in Lance Archer. This reminds me of when Brock Lesnar first burst on the scene in 2002, and he got the Rocket Pack to the WWE Championship and The Rock at SummerSlam. If this is the case for Lance Archer is going to get the Rocket Pack. He's going to be built up like a beast over the course of the entire summer. And I'm telling you right now, when Lance Archer wins the championship, the man that beats Lance Archer towards the end of the year, possibly 2021, is going to be made into a fucking superstar. He's going to be made into a fucking superstar. Darby Allin. Darby Allin is that man. I'm telling you right now, Darby Allin getting a win over Lance Archer towards the end of the year, Darby Allin is going to be made into an absolute superstar when he eventually beats Lance Archer for that championship. And I'm fully convinced. So we had Jurassic Express versus the Best Friends. We had a very, very good tag team match here between Jurassic Express and Best Friends. We had a big double suplex on Luchasaurus on the floor. Jungle Boy with a big tope con hero over the top rope, taking out the Best Friends. Coming back from commercial, Jungle Boy was caught with a sexy Chucky knee. We had Trent with a tornado DDT to Luchasaurus. Orange Cassidy was actually setting up for a move. He was actually measuring He was actually measuring Luchasaurus. And then out of nowhere, Rey Fenix comes flying in with a boot that nearly turned Orange Cassidy's head 360 degrees like a fucking owl. MJF ended up taking out Jungle Boy, his opponent at Double or Nothing 2. This allowed Chucky T to hit the awful waffle on Jungle Boy for the win, and then Wardlow ended up slinging Marco Stunt like a fucking child into the barricade. This was a very good tag team match, and it was then later announced that at Double or Nothing, we are going to see the Best Friends versus Private Party on the buy-in in an AEW World Championship #1 contenders match, which I don't really understand why they're doing that, because of what happened later on in the show with Chris Jericho challenging the Elite to a Stadium Stampede match, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But this was a very good tag team match. Best Friends get the win. Best Friends continue their momentum. We then had a fatal four-way match between Hikaru Shida, Penelope Ford, Britt Baker, and Chris Statlander. Now, at times, this match did seem extremely sloppy. This match seemed a little bit all over the place. Chris Statlander actually suffered a reverse Rana, a poison Rana that I really thought would have ended her career if she did not take it right. It did seem all over the place. It was fun, don't get me wrong. It was fun at times. It was very fun, and the right woman won. But they really need to slow it down a little bit in these Fatal 4-Ways. They need to slow it down a bit. What they're doing with the singles matches on AEW Dark, that's a little bit more organized. That's a little bit more toned down. That tells a little bit better of a story. I don't think anything will ever come close to Riho versus Nyla Rose on the February 12th episode of Dynamite. Although Hikaru Shida and Nyla Rose, it definitely does have potential, especially after what they did. Especially after the stipulation that they did. It was fun at times, but again, it just seemed to be very, very rushed. It seems as though they're doing a little bit too much in too little amount of time just to try and generate interest. We had a Tower of Doom superplex by Penelope and Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. Those were the three women involved. Penelope was then slammed onto Britt. We had Chris Statlander on the receiving end of a rising knee strike. We had a Canadian Destroyer by Britt Baker, which looked great. Britt Baker's actually much better than I remember her as. She's still not where she needs to be, but Britt Baker's definitely better from where she was 5 months ago. So we had a big cutter by Ford, stunner to Shida, big fisherman neckbreaker, and then a Falcon Arrow by Statlander for a 2. Ford got a 2 off a missile dropkick. Poison Rana by Ford on Statlander, which looked like Statlander could have broken her fucking neck Absolutely fucking brutal, extremely scary, and even if she did do it correctly, there's no way to make a Poison Rana look safe. Shida ended up with a knee strike, a running knee strike, the Shining Wizard for the win, while Britt had a lockjaw on Statlander on the outside. The match at Double or Nothing was made Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's World Championship. And unfortunately, I am sorry to tell you guys, I know I don't want to say it, but I don't think Hikaru Shida's winning. I really don't. I think that Nyla Rose's momentum was really halted because of this pandemic as well. And because of that, Nyla Rose hasn't had a chance to get any successful title defenses under her belt. So at the end of the day, I believe that Nyla Rose is going to end up retaining here, and we could very well get Nyla Rose possibly getting a win over Hikaru Shida. She's definitely going to get the win over Hikaru Shida, but Hikaru Shida is going to get the win at Double or Nothing more than likely. I'm going with Hikaru Shida. No, not Double or Nothing. All Out, I apologize. I'm going with Hikaru Shida to get the win at All Out 2 because of the fact that Nyla Rose does not have enough title defenses under her belt. We're probably going to get Nyla Rose and Riho in a rematch, depending on if the travel bans and the travel restrictions are lifted. I don't think they're going to get lifted now, but maybe in July we could see the travel restrictions get lifted. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how it plays out because Riho hasn't been seen on television ever since March. And I really just don't see Hikaru Shida winning after Nyla Rose has only had one title defense. Nyla Rose was quarantined. She does not have enough title defenses under her belt to really solidify her as a legitimate champion. And Hikaru Shida actually has the advantage here because we had a hilarious promo with Nyla Rose and Hikaru Shida in the backstage area where Nyla Rose hit Hikaru Shida on top of the head and said, "I found your kendo stick, bitch." Nyla Rose is great in the microphone. Nyla Rose is funny as shit on the microphone. Nyla Rose has been knocking it out of the park with her promos as of lately, but as far as the match at Double or Nothing is concerned, whether it's no disqualification, no count out, or whether it's Hikaru Shida's time now or not, I don't think that Nyla Rose is going to lose here. I don't think that Nyla Rose is going to lose here because of the simple fact that the pandemic halted her momentum and prevented her from defending that title anytime between Revolution and Double or Nothing. And you're not going to take the title off of her after her second title defense. So I think that Nyla Rose is going to end up retaining. We had Hardy and Omega versus Proud and Powerful. This was a very, very good tag team match. Two very good tag team matches on Dynamite, I will say. We had Kenny with a double Kutaro Crusher. Proud and Powerful were in control going into commercial. We had a big Snapdragon suplex. Hardy came in like a house of fire. Big side effect for a 2. Hardy with a twist of fate, but that was broken up by Ortiz. Omega then got sentoned in the corner by Santana. The rolling cannonball senton by Santana in the corner for a 2. We had a big full Nelson, reverse full Nelson actually, by Matt Hardy, and it looked like Ortiz was going to tap, but Sammy came in wearing a neck brace and carrying a chair. Sammy went to hit Matt Hardy with a chair, but we had a big twist of fate to Guevara, and I'm telling you, Guevara right now, Guevara may be the best seller in all of AEW right now. Every time he sells a head and neck move, he sells it as if he got fucking killed. He sells it as if he gets his neck broken. This was brutal. Probably one of the most brutal looking twist of fates I think I've ever seen. We had a big twist of fate off the top to Ortiz for the win, and that was it. Hardy and Omega get the win over Proud and Powerful and get some redemption for what happened last week. Lee Johnson versus MJF. Very academic match here. Nothing too crazy. MJF was just toying with Lee Johnson. We had a big powerbomb in the ring to Lee and a salt of the earth for the tap out win. He then takes the mic and says that he could use a little tune-up because he feels a little stiff. So next week, he put his name on the dotted line for a match against Marco Stunt. MJF is back. I am ecstatic. I love it. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for the match with Jungle Boy at Double or Nothing. And I'm telling you right now, if this keeps up, if MJF keeps this momentum up, we could very well be saying at the end of for All Out 2, we could very well be hearing at the end of All Out 2 and new AEW World Champion Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I've been saying that either Kenny Omega or potentially Hangman Page was in the prime position to take the title off of Jon Moxley in August. You know, MJF was another one. His momentum was halted because of the pandemic. But now that he's back and better than ever, I think that MJF could very well be the next AEW World Champion at the end of All Out 2. And I have absolutely no problem with that. So, Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander was also confirmed for Double or Nothing 2. And I think this is actually a great way to get both Britt Baker and Chris Statlander on the show and give Chris Statlander a big win. Since Chris Statlander's kind of been slacking in the major win department as of lately. It's not going to be anything special. It's not going to be anything match of the year worthy, but it's definitely going to be a great women's match. I think that both women are going to bring it, and I think that Chris Statlander is going to get the win here at Double or Nothing 2. I'm going to give more of my predictions on the rundown for Double or Nothing 2 next Friday. Chris Jericho versus Pineapple Pete, a.k.a. Shug D. So Pete came out of the gate, Shug D came out of the gate with some big punches in the corner, just forearms and punches, just unloading on Jericho. He was actually wearing a Pineapple Pete t-shirt, was Chris Jericho. We did have some corner avalanches. He did 2 corner avalanches, and then on the 3rd corner avalanche, he ran right into the Judas effect, and Chris Jericho gets the win. The most unintentionally funny squash match I think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen a funnier squash match than this. Pineapple Pete, Shug D, coming out of gates with the punches, 2 corner avalanches, just to get caught with a Judas effect. That was the only move that Chris Jericho delivered. The only move that Chris Jericho delivered. I was laughing my ass off. I love this. I loved it. So Chris Jericho then took the microphone. He said that the Inner Circle, they react, and he said that they created a new match called the Stadium Stampede match. He challenged the Elite at Double or Nothing to a Stadium Stampede match before Vanguard 1 showed up. And Chris Jericho said that the offer has been retracted. The offer has been retracted to join the Inner Circle, and said that instead they found someone else. And he pointed to the baseball bat. This is Floyd. And Floyd has a message for you. And he beats the shit out of Vanguard 1. Completely destroys Vanguard 1. Rest in peace, Vanguard 1. Matt Hardy then came out and fell to his knees at the shattered smithereens of Vanguard 1. And that was it. So you know that Matt Hardy is going to be pissed beyond his imagination when you're messing with Vanguard 1. But here's one thing that I do want to question. I'm assuming that this is going to be a cinematic match, the Stadium Stampede match. I believe that at every single pay-per-view, I believe that we could very well have at least one cinematic match for every single pay-per-view. We had the Boneyard match for night 1 of WrestleMania. We had Firefly Funhouse match night 2. We had Money in the Bank ladder match for Money in the Bank that took place in Titan Towers. Then we have Stadium Stampede. I'm assuming that this is going to be a common trend for every single one of the pay-per-views until we get the crowds back. But I don't really understand why we're getting the Elite versus the Inner Circle in a Stadium Stampede. I guess they want to be creative. They want to be different, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But at the same point in time, if Omega and Hangman are going to be in the same place at the same time, why don't you just have them defend the tag team titles against the Best Friends? The Best Friends, they've been getting win after win after win. They defeated Lee Johnson and Musa. They defeated Kenny and Michael Nakazawa. They defeated Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. They defeated Jurassic Express. They're on like a 4-match winning streak. Why do they need to beat Private Party? What if Private Party really done outside of win that one match on Dark to deserve a number 1 contenders match for the tag team championships? That's just me. It just doesn't make any sense if you're going to have Hangman and Kenny in the same place at the same time and you're not going to have them defend the tag team titles on pay-per-view. why are you booking them in a match if you're not going to have them defend the tag team titles? They haven't defended the tag team titles since February 29th. Now, that's just me. It doesn't really make any sense to me. I'm questioning it because it's been so long since we've seen Kenny and Hangman together, and the first time that they're back, they're not defending the tag team titles against the Best Friends, and the Best Friends got to win another match to earn a tag team title match. Doesn't really seem too logical to me. So next week, we actually got another loaded show. We actually got Jake Roberts and Arn Anderson in a face-to-face confrontation. We have 10 Preston Vance taking on Jon Moxley. And we got Sammy Guevara taking on Matt Hardy. So, Christopher Daniels took on Brody Lee, Mr. Brody Lee, the self-proclaimed AEW World Champion, Mr. Brody Lee. I would say this was a good match. Christopher Daniels, he could still go. Christopher Daniels definitely better than I last remembered him. And Brody Lee's fantastic at what he does. Brody Lee's been knocking it out of the park as far as this new role. We had Brody with a power slam right out of the gate. Big suicide dive by Daniels and an Arabian moonsault. Lee with a big back body drop. Daniels actually launched high in the fucking air, at least 10 feet. We had a big spinning sidewalk slam for a 2. Big senton and a super kick for a 2. SCU actually started to take out number 10. Colt Cabana and SCU actually got into a big brawl with the Dark Order. Neither of the competitors were touched, so the ref did not call for the bell. We had the best moonsault ever for a 2. Big powerbomb as Daniels came off the top and a discus lariat. Daniels was turned inside out for the win. And then out of nowhere, Jon Moxley came in. He started taking out the Dark Order as Brody and 10 left. And he says that he admires the grit. He admires someone stepping up to the plate and taking the opportunity, but he does not stand for disrespect. And he says that the title is about more than just a piece of metal. There will be a hailstorm of violence coming, and Brody will find out that his career will be over before it even gets started. Moxley and Brody, I'm actually very, very happy that they're going with this route. Brody may not win, but he's definitely going to benefit immensely from a match with Jon Moxley. I expect a great match between Jon Moxley and Brody Lee. They are two excellent wrestlers. They are great when they are given the opportunity, and I can't wait to see what they do. I think it's going to be great. This was an awesome episode of Dynamite. Not as good as last week, because we had that great street fight, but regardless, this did a very nice job building towards Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing looks stacked, and I mean stacked, and it really pisses me off that this could really be the best looking pay-per-view card for AEW that they've ever had, and it's going to take place literally in front of no one except 10 to 15 wrestlers around ringside. That really pisses me off in a sense. It really does. NXT, I don't really know what happened. This actually looked like a much, much better episode of NXT, but it was very lackluster. This was extremely lackluster. I don't know what happened here, but there were minimal highlights on this show. It seems as though... It really does seem as though, and I'm even including NXT in this, it really does seem as though that they're not even trying anymore. That they're really just coasting. Now, we had Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher versus Imperium for the NXT Tag Team Championships. This kicked off the show. Riddle was dealing with Bartel while Eichner took out Thatcher, and Thatcher and Riddle started to show dissension very, very early. It didn't take long before Thatcher decided to walk out after Riddle accidentally monkey flipped Bartel into Thatcher. So Thatcher walked out on Riddle, and then Riddle was caught with a PK and a European bomb, and Imperium win the Tag Team Championships. This match, I'm telling you right now, I love Imperium, I love Riddle, I think Thatcher's amazing, but this match did not live up to the hype. This match barely even went 10 minutes. It did not live up to expectations whatsoever. And they elected to go with the story of Thatcher walking out on Riddle to create drama. Now, Imperium are the NXT Tag Team Champions. Why are Imperium the NXT Tag Team Champions? It seems as though they realized that, it seems as though they realized that Pete Dunne and these travel issues are not going to be solved anytime soon. And Pete Dunne's not going to be in the United States for a while. I'm guessing that they wanted to break Matt Riddle and Thatcher up and make Matt Riddle a singles guy. I don't know if they needed a match for TakeOver in your house, which was actually announced on this show. I don't know. I don't even know why the tag team title match and the title change, I don't know why it took place here. The only thing that I can think of is the simple fact that Imperium, they were pretty much set in stone to take the NXT UK tag team titles off of Gallus on April 26th, 2020 at NXT TakeOver Dublin, but that did not happen. That got moved to October. And obviously NXT UK has been completely shut down. Nothing's going on in NXT UK. They're doing favorite matches over in NXT UK, told through the eyes of people like Trent Seven and Eddie Dennis and whoever over there. They're not even doing any matches, period, over in NXT UK. 205 Live just recently returned to in-ring action. They're not doing anything over in NXT UK. Matter of fact, UK's on lockdown. UK's on lockdown, and more likely than not, this was supposed to be the Grizzled Young Veterans. The Grizzled Young Veterans, more likely than not, were going to take the titles off the Broserweights because they were building up the Grizzled Young Veterans. And more likely than not, the Grizzled Young Veterans, they got quarantined in the UK. Imperium was already in America. Imperium was slated to take the NXT UK tag team titles off of Gallus. That didn't happen because of the obvious reasons. So, in a sense, this was their payoff. In a sense, this was the payoff for Marcel Bartel and Fabian Eichner. And it's an unfortunate set of circumstances, but they kind of slid into the NXT tag team title picture, and now they're the champions. I think they're great. I think it's well-deserved. It's well overdue for Eichner and Bartel, but at the end of the day, this was not the original plan. This was a backup plan. This was them giving Imperium their payoff because Imperium could not take the NXT UK tag team titles off of Gallus because of the ongoing pandemic. Because there's nothing going on in the UK right now. Now, the thing that I'm wondering is, Riddle and Thatcher have broken up. Who do Imperium defend the tag team titles at TakeOver in your house against? The only team that I can think of, the only babyface team that I can think of is only Lorcan and Danny Burch, because they're still with the NXT brand right now. They're still with the NXT brand. Both of them are in America. There's no travel restrictions there. Outside of only Lorcan and Danny Burch, who else is there? You're not going to put Indus Sher in there. Indus Sher hasn't been seen in about 3-4 weeks. I really don't know. I really don't know what they're doing there. We had Tegan Nox versus Indy Hartwell. Nothing crazy. Tegan Nox, she hit a shitty-looking chokeslam. I don't know what happened. Indy Hartwell botched, and she didn't even aid Tegan Nox in the chokeslam. We had a big cannonball, crossbody, and the shiniest wizard for the win. Tegan Nox gets the win. Tegan Nox has really fallen off the tracks, and it really does suck. It really does suck for Tegan Nox. I would like to hope that they're building her up for a potential NXT women's title match, but with Charlotte still as the champion, the only thing that an NXT women's title match is going to result in for Tegan Nox is her tapping out to the figure 8 and Charlotte Flair burying yet another NXT talent. Rhea Ripley was interviewed, and she said that she's going to bring the NXT women's title back home. And as Charlotte's old man said, we've only just begun, and that title is mine. And if she has to go through Io Shirai to do it, then she will. Tony Nese versus Jake Atlas, interim NXT Cruiserweight Championship tournament match. This tournament, I'm telling you, it started off fairly decent. It started off decent with a great match between Swerve and Tozawa, and then that one episode where we had about 3 matches on one show, that great match with Tony Nese and Kushida. After those first 2 episodes, it seems as though they just gave up on this tournament. It seems as though they're legitimately just rushing through this tournament and giving time to everything else. They're barely even putting a focus on this tournament. This match only went about 3.5, 4 minutes. Jake Atlas gets the win with the Rainbow DDT. And that was it. This tournament feels flat. Feels like they're rushing through it simply to get to the finals, which more likely than not will take place at NXT TakeOver in your house. But this was lackluster. I really don't know what else to say. This was lackluster. This didn't do anything, and it honestly feels as though they're just shrugging their shoulders with this tournament. It feels as though they don't even care anymore. This tournament feels flat. It feels rushed. I don't know what happened. After the first 2 episodes, they just seemingly forgotten about it. So DX cut a promo and they announced that on June 7th, 2020, NXT TakeOver in your house will take place, which I have absolutely no problem with. I am glad that TakeOver is returning, and I can only hope that they are going to give us something of substance and they'll put on what I hope to be a great show during this pandemic, because recently in the last couple weeks, NXT has not been very good as far as the empty arena shows go. I feel as though, again, they're just coasting and they're just going based off the fact like, hey, we're WWE, they're going to watch anyway. I don't really know what's going on. I don't know if Triple H seems unmotivated. I don't like to use that term when it comes to Triple H, because Triple H is usually so good, but recently, in the last few weeks, NXT has been extremely lackluster. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on, but it honestly feels as though they are suffering worse than All Elite Wrestling suffered during the time where they had to work with a limited roster. Finn Balor versus Cameron Grimes. This was undoubtedly the best thing about the show. This was a fairly decent match. We had some fast-paced offense in the beginning stages. We had a big basement dropkick by Balor. Cameron Grimes with a sidewalk slam on Finn Balor. Grimes actually slapped the shit out of Finn Balor. He uncorked a right slap right across Balor's face. This pissed Balor off. Balor came in. He was setting up Cameron Grimes before Damian Priest came in, and he hit Balor with the nightstick right in the leg behind the referee's back. Grimes with the cave-in and the win. Damian Priest then hit the Reckoning on a steel chair, and he says that if he wants his name to live forever, why not take out a Prince? And he says that he enjoyed it, just like he enjoyed it 3 weeks ago. Damian Priest is the attacker. And you know something? This is definitely going to help Damian Priest. This is definitely going to help Damian Priest. Damian Priest versus Finn Balor at NXT TakeOver in your house. I think that this is going to be a great match. I think that this is definitely going to elevate Damian Priest. Damian Priest getting win over Finn Balor. This is definitely going to put Damian Priest in a prime spot on NXT television. I have absolutely no problem with this match. This is definitely going to benefit Priest. This is going to get Balor something big to do, and it's really putting a focus on Finn Balor. Even though he's not a champion, it's really putting a focus on Finn Balor, whereas everything that Finn Balor does is just so important that anyone that feeds off a guy like Finn Balor is automatically going to be catapulted into superstardom, and that's what I love about the way that they're portraying Finn Balor. Jack Gallagher versus Isaiah Swerve Scott, interim NXT Cruiserweight Championship tournament. This is the same thing, literally the same exact shit as Tony Nese versus Jake Atlas. Short, rushed, lackluster. I really don't know what they're doing, and it honestly feels as though they're just trying to get to the finals. And I don't like that. I do not like that mentality whatsoever. Tony Nese attacked Swerve before the bell. Jack Gallagher was in control since the opening bell. Swerve hit the house call for a 2. Gallagher with the rolling elbow for the win, and that was it. And then afterwards, we had a match between Caden Carter and Aaliyah, which I don't really know why they're putting so many enhancement talent matches on NXT. Robert Stone came out to watch. I barely even took notes during this match. Aaliyah got hit with a super kick, and then she got trapped in a reverse figure four, and Aaliyah tapped out. Kaden Carter got the win. Dinner with the Garganos, part 2. They say they were pretty much admiring their handiwork from last week. Gargano called Dijakovic a goof. He was calling him a goof, like the prick heel that he's portraying. He was ragging on Keith Lee. He called Keith Lee just another flavor of the month. Candice called Casey Catanzaro an example of what they'll do to every NXT imbecile. Gargano and Candice said that they'll show everyone what real glory is, and that was pretty much it. Gargano and Candice LeRae putting on yet another great promo, and if we're going to get Gargano versus Keith Lee for the NXT North American Championship at NXT TakeOver in your house, man, sign me up. Sign me up. I have absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. I am all for it. Keith Lee, he's been doing some great work as far as his North American Championship reign goes. Keith Lee right now, by the end of this, Keith Lee could very well go down as the man with the best North American Championship reign in North American Championship history so far. In the 2 years that the title has existed, Keith Lee has really, and I mean really quickly, been establishing himself as the best North American champion to date. And if we're going to get a match with Gargano, Keith Lee, he's definitely going to cement his legacy as far as his North American title reign goes. I do not see him losing the championship. If he does face Gargano, I do see Gargano winning the NXT title towards the end of the year, with his wife Candice LeRae winning the NXT Women's Championship, and I do see them being the first married couple to hold both the NXT and the NXT Women's Championship. They have the opportunity. I don't think they're going to pass up on it. Next week we got Kushida and Drake Maverick, Rhea Ripley versus Io Shirai, and El Hijo del Fantasma versus Akira Tozawa. So, Matt Riddle versus Timothy Thatcher, I will say this. This was a very nitty-gritty, mat-based technical match. Mat grappling, ground and pound, very technical-based, which I don't mind whatsoever. I have no problem with the mat-based technical fight. You know, when I do see one, I definitely appreciate one, and I definitely appreciated this one from Riddle and Thatcher. So, Thatcher with a big German, but there was a roll-through into a final flash by Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle no-sold the German. He hulked himself up and then hit the final flash. Riddle with the powerbomb out of the armbar. Timothy Thatcher was locking in a lot of arm bars in this one. He was really wrenching back on the arm here. We had a bro to sleep on Thatcher. Thatcher got his knees up on the floating bro. Fujiwara armbar was countered by Riddle. Thatcher countered into an ankle lock, but Riddle rolled Thatcher up for the win. And then afterwards, Thatcher attacked Riddle and put him in the Fujiwara armbar, looked into the camera with this snarl, and he looked like a fucking madman. I thought that this was very good. This was probably the best thing on the show, along with Balor and Grimes. But realistically, outside of those two things and Dinner with the Garganos, NXT, very lackluster, very boring, nothing special. I really don't know what's going on. I really don't want to say that Triple H is unmotivated, but it seems as though they're just going based off the fact, like, hey, we're NXT, we're WWE, and they're not really operating with a sense of urgency. I'm hoping in the next few weeks leading up to TakeOver in your house, they're really going to operate with a sense of urgency, and they're really going to put on some shows that are going to get you invested in TakeOver. I do definitely see a triple threat match between Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Io Shirai. I do see another match between Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole. I do see a potential Gargano and Keith Lee. I do see Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Imperium versus Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, perhaps. And as far as the interim Cruiserweight Championship match, I could see Akira Tozawa versus Kushida. And I wouldn't mind that whatsoever. But NXT this week, very lackluster. Nothing special. I don't know what's going on. I can only cross my fingers and hope that they're going to get back to where they need to be, because I really do not like souring on NXT. This was not a very fun episode to watch. I mean, not as bad as SmackDown. Not as bad as SmackDown, which I'm going to talk about now. let me tell you something. I have a lot of fans who have turned into my friends who are also content creators, and I actually do try and support a lot of people as far as the wrestling community goes. I try and support a lot of people as far as the wrestling community goes. TM161, Wrestling with Heat, Joseph Conlon of Big Fight Field, to name a few, and they all do reviews. They all do separate reviews. They don't do one continuous video like I do. Me, I can't do separate reviews because I think I'd go fucking insane by reviewing Raw one night, AEW Dark another night, AEW Dynamite another night, NXT another day, SmackDown another day. I think I'd probably go insane. Props to them for doing all those reviews. And universally, unless you're one of these hyperactive 10-year-olds or you're one of these WWE dick lickers, literally, I watch all of their reviews. I watch TM's review. I watch Joseph's review. I watch Wrestling with Heat's review. I watch all of their reviews. I leave a like and comment because I know how much a like and I know how long of a way a like and comment goes. I do my best to support all of them, and they're all saying the same exact thing. SmackDown is unwatchable. It's literally the same shit every single week. This week was no different. And I feel as though everyone, all those individuals that I just named, all my friends that I just named right there, along with me, they literally just want to stop watching. They literally just want to cut it out. They literally just want to cut out SmackDown as a whole from the review. Miz TV kicked off with Mr. Money in the Bank Otis. So he said that he's got some Gas X and some meat in his Money in the Bank briefcase, which was funny. Don't get me wrong. I was laughing. Otis is hilarious. So Miz and Morrison, they were shocked. They were running through his old baby photos, his accomplishments. Miz was disgusted. Miz pretty much said, find a partner and meet them in the ring later. And that was pretty much it. I didn't really take extensive notes on this. I love Otis, don't get me wrong, but whether you want to admit it or not, him winning Money in the Bank was a waste. It was a waste. It's a waste. If he cashed in on the Tag Team Championships, it's a waste. If he cashed in on the Universal Championship, it's a waste because, A, even if he does cash in successfully, I don't trust WWE to actually book him like a legitimate champion. I mean, look what they did to Kofi. Kofi was given the WWE Championship, and he was booked like a complete joke. With the New Day character flinging pancakes and gyrating his hips. Kofi's great at what he does. Kofi's a great wrestler, but he was booked like a joke. His character sucked. Otis' character is not fit for a world title reign. And on top of that, even if he does cash in successfully, is he going to drop it right back to the person he cashed it in on? Is he going to have a lengthy title reign? Or is Mandy Rose going to end up costing Otis the Money in the Bank briefcase? Is that going to happen? Did they literally just give Otis the briefcase and they gave Otis the luxury of holding the briefcase? They gave Otis the surprise, the element of surprise, and they gave him the contract simply to enhance the storyline with Mandy Rose. I don't like that. And I'm telling you right now, they are going to overexpose Otis to a point where we're all going to hate him. We're all going to hate on Otis because they are going to overexpose him. They're going to push him and push him and push him. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing. Too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And they're going to overexpose Otis and push him into a position in which no one wants to see him anymore. Elias versus King Corbin, Intercontinental Championship Tournament. This match went 20 minutes. I am telling you right now, this match was lackluster as fuck. This match dragged. This match went way too fucking long. And I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for the fact that I literally take all of these extensive notes, literally a pen, no laptop, no iPad. I take these notes with this pen and this notepad. I literally spend money out of my own wallet. I spend money out of my own wallet literally to sit on my bed and take 2 to 3 pages worth of notes on every single show. If it wasn't for the fact that I was literally writing down what was happening during this match as it was taking place, I would have dozed off. I would have been knocked out cold. Out. Elias, I will say, he's much better than he was a year ago. Last year, he was complacent. Last year, he was one of the worst wrestlers on WWE television. I can actually respect that he's actually trying now. Elias has definitely gotten better, but King Corbin, one of the worst things about WWE television. One of the worst things about WWE television. This match fucking dragged way too long. This was boring as fuck. And on top of that, AJ Styles from Raw, they got this brand-to-brand invitational, having AJ Styles take up a spot on SmackDown from a more deserving guy who's actually on the roster. Where the fuck is Cesaro? Why isn't Cesaro in this tournament? Are you telling me that you couldn't have put Cesaro in this tournament? You couldn't have had Cesaro versus Elias and King Corbin versus Nakamura? Are you telling me you couldn't have had Nakamura and Cesaro in the semifinals? I'm telling you, it would have made the tournament that much more better. AJ Styles is merely on there because Vince McMahon thinks that he's going to drive up the ratings by having a Raw superstar on SmackDown. That ain't gonna happen. The ratings will sink. Just like it sunk last year during the wild card rule, under 2 million before this pandemic even started. Corbin wore down Elias in the beginning. Elias with a big crossbody to the outside. Elias actually tossed Corbin over the ringside area after Corbin touched his guitar. So Corbin regained control. But Elias caught him with a big swinging neck breaker. Elias was then caught with a spinebuster by Corbin for a 2. Corbin with a choke slam for a 2. Corbin then destroyed Elias' guitar. Elias hit the knee and rolled up Corbin for the win. Again, dragged way too long. The only positive that we can be happy for is that Corbin is not going to be Intercontinental Champion. Thank God. So the SmackDown hacker was shown. Says that he is everywhere, he sees everyone, and he hears everything. I am the truth, and no one is safe. I don't know what's going to happen. It seems as though more and more weeks go by and more people are pointing towards Mustafa Ali. We'll see. Naomi versus Dana Brooke. This was the second match that these two have had in the last month. Dana Brooke rolls up Naomi for the win. The fact that I have to watch Dana Brooke, one of the most worthless, one of the biggest piss-poor excuses for a pro wrestler, defeat someone like Naomi, who realistically is one of the best women's wrestlers on SmackDown, is absolutely disgusting. You may as well just send Naomi away with all the other people that you sent away last April. Or last month, rather. I swear to God, if I have to sit through Dana Brooke versus Bayley for the SmackDown Live Women's title at Backlash, I am giving Backlash an automatic thumbs down. I do not give a shit. I would much rather Bayley not even defend the SmackDown Live Women's Championship until we get to SummerSlam and we get the match with Sasha if you're going to have her face people like Tamina and Dana Brooke. I'm telling you right now, my mustache is going to be gray. My mustache is going to be gray by Backlash. With all the fucking ranting I'm doing. I am going to be in a hospital with this intestinal disease and a gray fucking mustache. I'm fucking sweating. I am literally fucking... I'm wearing a muscle tee. I'm wearing a muscle tee and shorts. And I'm literally fucking sweating just talking about this shit. Charlotte Flair. She made an appearance. And she said, there's only one thing that I wrote down from her promo before Bayley and Sasha interrupted. And she said, the people want more Charlotte Flair. Yeah, the people want more Charlotte Flair. Yeah, sure. And I got Gal Gadot on speed dial. She's coming over tomorrow. We're having eggplant parm for dinner. People want more Charlotte Flair. So Sasha and Bayley interrupted. I didn't really take that many extensive notes on this either. Bayley and Sasha, they came out. Bayley just said to get the hell out of their ring. Charlotte said that Sasha is pretty much content with being an afterthought. Bayley challenged Charlotte to a match. The match was made for next week. Charlotte then accepted and asked Sasha if she was her own woman or if she's just Bayley's lackey and content with being an afterthought. She gave a half-assed woo, and that was it. 3 shows now that Charlotte is on, and I'm telling you right now, at this rate, if you're a Charlotte Flair fan, you're the fucking problem. I'm sorry. I'm literally past the fucking point of If you are a Charlotte Flair fan, you are the fucking problem. If you support anything that Charlotte Flair has been doing since the Royal Rumble, and you support the booking that Charlotte Flair has been on since the Royal Rumble, you are the fucking problem with this community, and you need to be checked into a mental asylum and put your name down for immediate brain surgery. You are out of your mind. We had a promo by the Forgotten Sons. And this was actually very good. This was 2 thumbs up for me. They said that they weren't welcomed home with open arms, so they're going to welcome the people they come in contact with closed fists. This was very good. This was very good. More of this, please. And I would love to see the Forgotten Sons take the titles off the New Day at Backlash, please. We don't need the New Day as tag team champions anymore. Daniel Bryan versus Drew Gulak Intercontinental Championship Tournament match. This was a very good technical-based match. This was undoubtedly the best thing on the show. I could watch these two fight all night long. Very ground-based to start off the match. Both men were trying for their respective submission maneuvers early. Gulak ended up rolling Bryan up off the German suplex. And we had a big scoop slam, almost a modified Michinoku driver by Gulak. Gulak then with a power bomb, but Bryan rolled through. He reversed it. Bryan, he snapped the ankle. He snapped Gulak's ankle, and it snapped in a way that I don't think I've ever seen an ankle snap. It snapped in a way that ankles should not snap in. He then locked in the heel hook, and Drew Gulak tapped out. And then afterwards, they shook hands, and that was it. Bryan is moving on to the semifinals. Very good technical-based match. And that's pretty much all I can say. This was undoubtedly the best thing on the show. And I need to ask, why are the finals taking place on SmackDown? Why are the finals taking place on SmackDown? Are you really telling me you can't put any focus on Backlash? Are you telling me you are not trying to make Backlash a must-see show at all? It's just going to show you how lazy WWE really is and how little they value their pay-per-views. They're literally trying to put the Intercontinental Championship Tournament Finals on SmackDown just to try and drive up the ratings, when in reality, all they have to do is put on some compelling storylines with some actual compelling characters in the correct roles, but they can't seem to do that! Having the finals take place on SmackDown. So not only are you not having a tournament for the Raw Women's Championship, but now you're not even having the finals for the Intercontinental Championship Tournament take place on SmackDown because you want to drive up the ratings. Meanwhile, not even a championship tournament, no matter who's in the finals, which it'll probably be AJ and Bryan, because then they're going to have AJ take over a spot from a SmackDown Live superstar because of this brand-to-brand invitational, because they think that's going to help drive up the ratings. You know for a fact that no matter who's in the finals, the ratings are still going to be shit. Next week, aside from Bayley and Charlotte, we got Jeff Hardy versus Sheamus, and Otis and Mandy versus Dolph and Sonya. We actually had a promo with Sonya and Dolph. They were shown backstage. Sonya said that Mandy isn't good at wrestling or fighting. She's merely good at being blonde and pretty. And she says that if that's all she's good at, that's merely going to leave her barefoot with screaming children and Otis yelling, "Asa, toss me a beer." She says that next week, please, put on your big girl panties and show me why you deserve to share the same ring with me. And we'll see you in the ring next week. Sonya Deville has been great since the split of Fire and Desire. I really gotta say, everything that Sonya Deville has been doing, from her promo work to the nice little match that she got against Mandy, outside of the fact that she won with a fluky roll-up, to this promo, she has been doing an excellent job ever since splitting from Fire and Desire. I really got to give her a lot of credit. I hope this continues, and I really hope they give Sonya Deville a bigger opportunity after this entire storyline with Mandy Rose is over. Because Sonya Deville, she is great. She's been doing awesome. Some excellent stuff. Outside of this and Bryan versus Drew Gulak, there was literally nothing else on the show. And then afterwards, we had Otis and Braun Strowman versus Miz and Morrison. Braun got the hot tag, power slam to Morrison, that was it. We had Mandy coming out. Otis did a little dance as Braun was distracted, sneaking up on him. But he's like, no, it's just killing you, just for a laugh, just for a laugh. And that was pretty much it. They fist bump and that was it. I didn't give a shit. The show was terrible. And I don't think anyone wants to talk about SmackDown at all in the wrestling community. 205 Live actually returned to in-ring action, and then we can finally get to the news, rumors, and reports. I know a lot of you have been badgering me. Just get to the fucking news, rumors, and reports already, DJ. I'm getting there. Relax. I told you this was going to be a long one. That's why I got 2 bottles of water. Tyler Breeze took on Tahuti Miles. Tahuti Miles actually came out of the gate with big drop kick, supermodel kick for a 2. Breeze hit the unprettier for the win. Good to see Tyler Breeze back. I'm not really holding my breath that he's going to get a Cruiserweight title match anytime soon. I still don't know why he wasn't put in the interim NXT Cruiserweight Championship tournament, but, we can't really do anything about that now. The tournament has sucked for the last couple weeks. Tony Nese versus Jack Gallagher. This was actually a decent match. This was actually pretty stiff. Nese and Gallagher traded pins in the early portions. Nese with a beautiful moonsault for a 2. We had a big sunset driver for a 2. Jack Gallagher reversed the running Nese with a brutal-looking headbutt. Nese ran right into the fucking headbutt. And then Gallagher hit the rolling elbow for the win. Afterwards, he stared down Nese in the corner as Nese was trying to recover from the rolling elbow. And he said, "We're not done, Mr. Nese. We're not done." So, decent little match here between Tony Nese and Jack Gallagher. I hope that we could actually get a possible stipulation match here on 205 Live. I actually think that would actually benefit them. Tony Nese and Jack Gallagher are actually working very well together. It just sucks that I have to watch this show for only 30 minutes and it's in front of no one, because what they're doing on 205 Live has been great. 205 Live is actually very, very good. But recently, since the pandemic started, 205 Live has actually been one of the biggest shows, perhaps the second biggest show, that has benefited, not have benefited, that have suffered the most from this pandemic. Number one is obviously NXT UK for the WWE. NXT UK's suffered extremely. They're not even doing anything. 205 Live, yeah, they had about a month and a half off, but at least now they're getting back into in-ring action. NXT UK has been suffering, and it sucks too. 205 Live is very good. NXT UK is great, and it sucks. It sucks that this pandemic has halted the momentum of both of those shows. But regardless, it's time for the news, rumors, and reports, and then we can get out of here. Are you happy, P? Are you happy? This was going to be a long one. I told you it was going to be a long LFU. So Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, he confirmed in our first report that WWE had released Rachel Evers. She's among the names being cut because of the ongoing pandemic. This sucks because I was actually high on Rachel Evers. I actually thought that Rachel Evers could have actually mounted to something. She was actually very good in the Mae Young Classic. It sucks. It's an unfortunate set of circumstances. I actually hope that she'll be able to find success elsewhere. And again, the fact that this is still going on, that we're still getting releases here and there, just proves to you how much WWE really hoarded talent. I can't really say too much about that. I actually got a lot of reports from Meltzer. Meltzer actually reported that WWE now has plans to push Jinder Mahal as a babyface. Yes, you heard me correctly. Jinder Mahal as a babyface. Early signs of this were seen when he gave a backstage interview as a babyface in which he praised Drew McIntyre's success. I find this completely laughable. I find this completely laughable in more ways than one. Jinder Mahal is going to get a babyface push and a hero's welcome. Really. So you're telling me you're going to have Jinder Mahal coming out shaking hands with his opponent? You're going to have Jinder Mahal coming out not cheating? You're going to have Jinder Mahal actually being a respectable wrestler? Let me tell you something. It does not matter whether you book him as a heel, whether he's rolling up the tights, whether he's got the Singh brothers, whether he's shaking hands, whether he's got his feet on the ropes, whether he's showing respect to his opponent, whether he's praising Drew McIntyre. It does not matter how you book him. People are not going to forget who he is and what you have booked him to do. People are not going to forget that 7-month WWE Championship reign that completely ruined SmackDown. And I don't want to hear a single word out of anyone who says, oh, the title reign wasn't really that bad to begin with. Yeah, it fucking was. Yes, it fucking was. The man is one of, if not the worst wrestlers employed by the company. The man is stiff. The man is uncoordinated. The man cannot move for his life. The man can't move for his life. The man is a wrestler that you find at the bottom of the barrel. He's someone that you find at the bottom of the barrel when you're talking about the food chain as far as quality goes. He has no value whatsoever. The man can't cut a promo for his life. The man had literally the same exact fucking ending every single time he was fighting in a WWE Championship match in 2017. The man had one of the worst matches of the modern era with Roman Reigns back at Money in the Bank of 2018. So you really think that everyone is just automatically going to forget all of that? You really think that we're going to forget all of that took place over the course of the last 3 years with Jinder Mahal? You know where Jinder Mahal belongs? The unemployment line. And again, it just goes to show you what type of mentality the WWE has, that they kept Jinder Mahal, but yet they released Karl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Lio Rush, Eric Young, Deonna Purrazzo, Sarah Logan, Kurt Angle, Heath Slater, all these guys. They released all those guys, yet they kept Jinder Mahal. It does not matter whether you book him as a babyface or a heel. Jinder Mahal, period. Jinder Mahal, period, is someone who is going to devalue the show. He's going to devalue a match. He's going to devalue a feud. He's going to devalue a championship. He devalues everything. Everything that Jinder Mahal touches turns to shit. The guy is not a good wrestler. The guy is not a good promo. That is not an opinion. That is a fact. Whether you want to admit it or not. It does not matter what they do with Jinder Mahal. And on top of that, you really expect people to believe in a Jinder Mahal babyface run? At least, listen, Jinder Mahal is worthless. Jinder Mahal is just about worth as much as the shit that my dog took on my neighbor's lawn the other day. But at least as a heel, at least he's believable as a heel. You really think that people are going to get behind him as a babyface? There's no crowd. How can you tell if this babyface role is working or not? Jinder Mahal is a babyface. Until Jinder Mahal can actually wrestle, I am not going to get behind anything that the guy does. No matter how you portray him. Meltzer also noted that it appears that AJ Styles and The Undertaker are continuing their storyline based on what happened on Monday with Styles watching the Undertaker Last Ride documentary preview. The two are set to have a match, quote-unquote, way down the line, as it would seem. I don't understand why this is even happening. I don't understand why this is even a report. And if it is true, the Boneyard match was probably the best match that they could have done. I don't think anything's going to come close to the Boneyard match. So if you're really going to put them in a match together, you're really going to sacrifice all that and you're going to get rid of all of that. You're going to erase the memory of all that just to simply have a one-on-one match. Why is this match continuing? Undertaker, he literally buried AJ Styles. Who cares? Why are we going to get another match between the two? Do you really think that The Undertaker can go still at his age? The Boneyard match was great, and it was beautifully produced cinematically because it played up to Undertaker's strengths. You're not playing up to Undertaker's strengths if you're putting him in the ring with AJ Styles and you're going to have him have an actual wrestling match, especially if it's in front of no one. If you're set to have a match way down the line, if you're going to have a match towards the end of the year, even if we do get 25% max crowd capacity, it's not going to make a difference. It's literally not going to make a difference. You're literally going to jeopardize the great feedback that the Boneyard match got. You're literally going to jeopardize everything, and you're literally going to erase all of that just for a one-on-one match, just because the Undertaker or someone wants to work. Someone wants to work with AJ Styles, or someone wants AJ Styles and the Undertaker to work together in an actual match. It's not going to happen. It's not going to have the same impact. It's not going to have an impact, period. Even if you're an AJ Styles fan, you cannot tell me that this would be a good idea. It makes no sense. Boneyard match was undoubtedly one of the best things across both nights of WrestleMania. It was probably the best thing about WrestleMania. WrestleMania this year was horrendous. WrestleMania this year was one of the worst WrestleManias that we ever seen. Please don't lie to yourself. Please don't lie to yourselves, people. WrestleMania sucked. It's a fact. Boneyard match was probably the best thing about WrestleMania, period. And you're going to erase all of that just for another match with AJ Styles and The Undertaker? The storyline continuing does not make any sense. Just let the guy go. That could have been the best possible way for The Undertaker to go out. And you're literally going to jeopardize that, and you're going to jeopardize that reputation by having him face off against AJ Styles in another match. Moving on to actually something that I'm not going to complain about. For once, I know, oh my God, DJ Storm's not going to complain. I may be a complainer, but let me tell you something. When I see something that's good, I'm going to say it's good. And this is actually something that you will not believe I'm going to praise. I'm actually going to praise Vince McMahon here. Paul Davis of Wrestling News reported that Vince McMahon is currently planning on running shorter pay-per-views. This will continue throughout the duration of the pandemic until crowds are allowed back. This is a great idea. If we have pay-per-views 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes, 3 hours, I have no problem with this whatsoever. Matter of fact, I applaud Vince McMahon for this decision. Matter of fact, I actually hope that this continues after the pandemic. You know why? Because a pay-per-view, if it's 3.5 hours, if it's 4 hours, if it's 4.5, if it's 5 hours, some regular B-level pay-per-views like Money in the Bank and Extreme Rules, they've even gone 4 hours before. And I don't even understand why. They've even gone 4 hours before. And I'm like, really? Why are you having them go 4 hours? If you overload pay-per-views like that with 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 matches, and it's not WrestleMania, it's not a big pay-per-view like WrestleMania or SummerSlam or Survivor Series, what are you doing in a sense? You're in a sense pretty much devaluing the prestige of your pay-per-views. A pay-per-view is supposed to be WWE's biggest stage, where only the biggest stars make it. And if you're going to put 10, 11, 12 matches on the show, 4 hours, it's almost pretty much saying that a pay-per-view is pretty much the same thing as weekly television. Anyone can get on it. But if you reduce the time, then you reduce the matches, just like you did for Money in the Bank. You keep it 8, 9 matches, under 10 matches. You could really develop a sense of importance for pay-per-views. You could really bring back some prestige for pay-per-views. You only put the big stars, you only put the big matches on the pay-per-views, and this could benefit a lot. This could benefit a lot of stars, and it could make a lot of stars, in a sense, rejuvenated. You could literally rejuvenate a lot of value for a lot of superstars by putting them on pay-per-views, by reducing the time and reducing the matches for the pay-per-view. And if a pay-per-view ends at 9:30, starts at 7, ends at 9:30, 9:45, I think that would benefit a lot of people, especially during this time. I don't think anyone wants to watch 4 hours and 30 minutes, 5 hours of wrestling in front of no one. Money in the Bank, I even said it. Money in the Bank was a fairly decent pay-per-view. A lot of people were saying it. Money in the Bank was a fairly decent pay-per-view. And I have a feeling that one of the things that really contributed to that was the shorter amount of time. And I think that this could actually benefit a lot. I applaud Vince McMahon. This is perhaps the best decision that Vince McMahon has made in over half a decade for his company. I have no problem with this whatsoever. This is actually some interesting news here. We got Impact Wrestling EVP Scott D'Amore. He actually made an accidental appearance on a recent edition of Talkin' Shop, the podcast hosted by Karl Anderson, Rocky Romero, and Luke Gallows. D'Amore called Gallows, who was in the middle of recording the show, and put him on speakerphone. This created some speculation that Gallows and Anderson could very well be signing with Impact Wrestling. I don't think they're signing with Impact Wrestling. First off, why would you want to sign with Impact Wrestling? Impact Wrestling right now is at the lowest of low point. The Impact Wrestling is the Becky Lynch of the wrestling world. Before Becky Lynch eventually left, Impact Wrestling was and is the Becky Lynch of the wrestling world, at the bottom of the barrel. Impact Wrestling right now, literally, I don't think anyone is heavily invested in Impact Wrestling, and they merely cover Impact Wrestling for content reasons, to get content up on the channel, because the more content that you have, the more people will watch, and the more variety that you have. That's the only reason why people even cover Impact Wrestling, because you take a look at Impact Wrestling, and how many people are really chatting about Impact Wrestling. Is Impact Wrestling ever trending in the top 5, top 10? They're probably talking with Impact Wrestling, that's for sure, but Luke Gallows and Karl Anderson, they were posting teasers about going back to Japan. They could be joining the Bullet Club once this is all said and done. So I don't really know what Impact Wrestling, I don't even know what Impact Wrestling really do. Impact Wrestling, now they got some fairly decent tag teams in Impact Wrestling, but at the end of the day, who cares? Impact Wrestling is a wasteland at this rate. Literally, no one cares. Impact Wrestling was in the same place it was years ago. Impact Wrestling, it's literally on its last legs. I'm surprised that Impact Wrestling hasn't gone under. I'm very shocked. But no, they're not signing. Karl Anderson and Luke Gallows, they were posting teasers about going back to Japan. We even saw it. Karl Anderson even posted a teaser about becoming the Machine Gun again. Moving on. Ringside News exclusively reported that Sami Zayn has given WWE staff problems backstage. He said he has, quote-unquote, sandbagged his own push multiple times. Not competing in the PC tapings is an example of this. During Oh You Didn't Know podcast, it was stated that there was some speculation that he may want out of his contract. Quote-unquote, I've been told he's been difficult to deal with. He's unhappy, and is even speculation that he may want out. End quote. To be quite honest, I really wouldn't blame Sami Zayn at this rate. Sami Zayn, in a sense, a lot of people have said that Sami Zayn, in a sense, is being punished for not coming to work. But, you know, it could be argued either way there. I'm not really going to dive in too much on that, because I actually got a bigger report to talk about. I don't really know what's going on there. I don't think Sami Zayn necessarily wants out, but it's clear as day that he is a little bit unhappy with his position. Now, especially, the guy in a sense, I do have to point this out. The guy's a fucking idiot when it comes to politics on Twitter, but that's a different story for a different day. Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet, the WWE cocksucker on Backstage, Ryan Satin, he reported that Sting is no longer under contract with the WWE. And I quote, sources tell us that despite the wrestling legend not being under contract at the moment, it does not mean the two sides won't work out a possible merchandising deal going forward. Now, they did actually cancel the launch of a certain Mattel Elite series with Sting as the headline. Cody Rhodes actually teased Sting joining All Elite Wrestling by tweeting out his signature hand to the ear gif in reply to a Sting-related tweet. Now, if Sting is going to go to All Elite Wrestling, I will say this. I'm going to briefly comment on this before we get out of here. Sting going to All Elite Wrestling. I actually would not mind this as long as he's not wrestling. I would not mind this as long as he's not wrestling. I think that if Sting is to go to All Elite Wrestling, I think that he would benefit from a managerial role. I think that he would benefit from a possible managerial role for Darby Allin. I wouldn't mind that. It could have a Jake Roberts, Lance Archer type vibe. I actually love the way that they're using legends in All Elite Wrestling. They're having Jake Roberts manage Lance Archer. Arn Anderson's managing Cody. You had DDP coming back to put over MJF. I really like what they're doing with the legends. We could definitely have Sting as an on-screen character. We could have Sting as a color commentator. I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind Sting as a possible broadcaster. You could put Sting in there as a producer. But as far as wrestling goes, I really don't think that Cody Rhodes is going to have Sting go out there and wrestle, because what they're doing is they're mainly focusing on the younger talent and the current talent that they have. They're focusing on the major talent in All Elite Wrestling, like the Darby Allins and the Jon Moxleys and the Brody Lees, the Codys, the Lance Archers, the MJFs, the Kenny Omegas and the Hangman Pages, Matt Hardy even. Matt Hardy more likely is going to end his career there. Matt Hardy, he's in a much better shape than Sting is. So if Sting is to come to All Elite Wrestling, it's not going to be in a wrestling role. I wouldn't mind him as a color commentator with someone like Taz. You could have him commentate on AEW Dark. You can have him learn how to be a producer. If they wanted to, he could be a manager to someone like Darby Allin. You have that mysterious vibe that the both could feed off of. You got Darby Allin being the creepy daredevil. You got Sting and the creepiness that he presents. You could have him be the one managing Darby Allin. That could definitely work out. You could have Sting as a possible Dark Order member. I don't know. I don't think that it would really benefit too much from. I think that would definitely benefit the Dark Order. It would definitely benefit the Dark Order being associated with someone like Sting, but I don't necessarily think would make sense. That's just me throwing out a possibility right there. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but there's a lot of possibilities that you could put Sting in as far as All Elite Wrestling goes, but if he is to join, I really don't think it's going to be in a wrestling role. Now, that's just my eyes. I think that Cody's just doing that to just add fuel to the fire because he knows he's going to get a reaction out of the WWE trolls. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of the Lightning Flash Update. I would like to thank each and every single one of you who tuned into this video. You already know. Check out all the links in the description. Like, comment, subscribe. And I will see you guys next week for Quarantine with Thunder Episode 8. We got 2 episodes of the Blue Riot podcast. And, of course, Dark Side of the Ring review for Owen Hart. We got the rundown for Double or Nothing 2, Lightning Flash Update next week, and the rewind for Double or Nothing 2 next Sunday. You guys have a great weekend. I'll catch you later.